I shivered as the cold iron chains bit into my skin, my wrists aching from being bound for hours. Dust swirled around me as traders and villagers walked past, some glancing at me with curiosity, others with indifference. Merchants shouted over one another, bartering over spices, furs, and steel. But the loudest voices came from the men gathered before us, the bidders. They appraised us like cattle, their eyes trailing over our bodies with a mixture of greed and cruelty.
Strong build.
One of them muttered, eyeing a boy who couldn't have been older than 15.
He'll work well in the fields.
I had been taken from my village, dragged through unfamiliar lands, and now stood on display like livestock in this foreign market. A voice cut through the murmur of the crowd.
How much for this one?
I looked up. A tall, broad-shouldered man stood before me. His face was rough and weathered, his dark eyes sharp with appraisal. But what unsettled me the most was the hunger in his gaze.
She's strong. She'll serve you well.
When we reached a modest wooden house near the outskirts of the village, my legs nearly gave out, but I caught myself.
Inside.
I hesitated for only a moment before stepping inside the dimly lit home. The space was small, but not unpleasant. A hearth in the center, a wooden table, furs spread along the floor for warmth. A large bed rested against the far wall. I forced myself not to look at it. Then he spoke words that sent ice through my veins.
You are my wife now.
What?
You heard me? You belong to me. As my wife, you will do what is expected. Cook, clean, fetch water, tend to the fields. And at night, you will warm my bed.
My breath came in short gasps. This was worse than I had feared. He didn't just want a servant. He wanted ownership of me in every way. I never agreed to be your wife.
You had no choice. A slave has no say in her fate.
I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came. He was right. I had no rights, no voice. I was nothing more than property.
What's your name?
Lily.
You may call me Rorik.
And just like that, my name was all I had left of my old life.
The washing basin is there. Clean yourself up before the meal.
I didn't move.
Do it now!
I forced my feet forward, my hands trembling as I reached for the cold water. I scrubbed the dirt from my skin, watching as the murky water darkened with filth. Behind me, Rorik sat at the table, sharpening a blade. The sound of metal scraping against stone filled the silence between us. I was his now, and I had no idea how I would survive it. The days blurred into one another. Each morning I woke before the sun, my body aching from sleeping on the hard wooden floor. Rorik had not yet allowed me to sleep in his bed, though I knew it was only a matter of time before he decided to take what he already considered his. I would have preferred the floor forever. My duties were endless. I fetched water from the well at dawn, the wooden bucket digging into my palms as I struggled with its weight. I cooked over the open fire, the smoke stinging my eyes as I prepared Rorik's meals. I cleaned the chicken pens, my hands raw from scrubbing the filth. And when I was not working, I was silent, moving through my new home like a shadow. Rorik was not a cruel man in the way some warriors were. He did not beat me for speaking or refuse me food, but his silence was just as suffocating. He barely looked at me, except at night when his gaze lingered too long, his eyes dark with something I didn't dare name. I feared the night more than the labor. One evening, after I had prepared a stew from the few vegetables left in the storage, I knelt by the hearth, stirring the pot while Rorik sat at the table, sharpening his axe. Then he spoke.
You have been obedient.
I tensed, my hand tightening around the wooden spoon. I do what I must to survive.
All slaves do, but you are different.
I did not answer.
You are mine, Lily. You will learn to accept that.
I bit back the retort on my tongue, forcing myself to remain still.
Fetch more water tomorrow. The well is running low.
Yes, Rorik. The days turned to weeks. I did as I was told, enduring Rorik's presence, his expectations, his touch when he decided to claim me. I never resisted. Even when I discovered I was with child 5 months later, nothing changed. If anything, the work grew heavier, the expectations harsher. One evening, exhaustion took hold of me, and I drifted off by the fire while cooking. The smell of burnt food filled the air. Before I could react, a sharp pain exploded across my cheek.
You worthless slave! I should have left you to rot.
I curled into myself, protecting my stomach as best I could. The pain throbbed through my body, but it was nothing compared to the fear that his blows might harm the child within me. Rerok left 3 nights before the labor held me. He did not know I was close to giving birth. I had not told him. I had hoped and prayed that the child would wait for his return, that perhaps the gods would grant me mercy and let my labor come while there was someone to help. I gave birth alone in the chicken pen. Despite the filth and pain, the moment I held my daughter Aldous in my arms, something inside me shifted. She was my reason to endure. But the world was cruel. Rorik returned 3 days later. He barely glanced at the child. He grunted when I told him it was a girl, muttered something about bad luck, and then left to drink with his friends. I should not have been surprised. The months passed and life grew harder. A war broke out between us and a neighboring village. The fields were abandoned, the crops left to rot. The cattle were slaughtered by warriors passing through, taken for the soldiers who fought in battles. Trade ceased and famine spread like disease. Rorik was not a warrior. He was a merchant, a man who profited from war but did not fight in it. While others left to defend their land, he stayed behind, spending his nights drinking, his anger growing with every passing day. And we, his wife, his daughter, suffered for it. My milk dried up before my daughter turned 1. I did what I could, her body weak from hunger. I begged Rorik for help.
She is a girl. If she dies, it is the gods' will.
I wanted to kill him. The day my daughter's fever took hold, I knew she would not survive. Her skin burned, her tiny body shaking as she whimpered in her sleep. I held her close, whispering promises I could not keep. I had to find something, anything, but that night, fever took Aldous from me. I screamed into the darkness, clutching her lifeless body, but no god, no spirit answered me. One evening, while scavenging in the woods, I stumbled upon a dying man, his armor stained with blood. Even in his weakened state, I recognized the sigil on his chest. He was from the enemy kingdom. Common sense told me to leave him, but something deeper compelled me to act. I dragged him back, secretly tending to his wounds in the goat pen, giving him the last of my food and water. Rorik came home late, reeking of ale and bad decisions. He slammed the door behind him, grumbling under his breath. I stayed silent. I had learned by now that silence was safer.
Where is my food?
There is none left. His eyes snapped to mine.
You useless woman. You cannot cook, you cannot clean, and now you cannot even keep a child alive.
I wanted to scream, to throw myself at him, to claw at his face and make him bleed the way I had bled. But I didn't because I had learned long ago that fighting back would only make it worse. So I took the blows, as I always did. I told myself it didn't matter. I turned on my heel, pushing away the feeling of foolishness that crept into my chest. Months passed and the war ended, but my suffering remained. Rorik was as cruel as ever. Then one day, while walking to the farm, A figure blocked my path. My breath caught in my throat. It was Leif, the man I had saved.
I'm sorry I left without a word. If they had found me, I would have been executed.
I understand, though I barely recognized the warmth in my own voice. From that day on, Leif found me each week, meeting me on the path to the fields. He spoke of his land, his people, and little by little, I felt something other than pain. One night, under the glow of the moon, he looked at me and said,
Come with me. Leave this place. I will take you back to my kingdom, and I will treat you like a queen.
I'm already married.
That man does not treat you like a wife. He treats you like a slave.
It doesn't matter. He bought me. I belong to him.
Then I won't force you. But if you ever change your mind,
He left it at that. That night, Rorik came home drunk, furious that dinner was late. His blows came harder than ever before.
Useless woman. You can't cook. You can't clean. You couldn't even keep our child alive.
I gasped, his words slicing through me like a blade. Then, before he could strike me again, the door burst open. A shadow moved so fast I barely registered what was happening. Rorik was yanked backward and thrown to the ground. I blinked through the haze of pain, my vision clearing just enough to see Calder standing over him, his chest rising and falling with controlled fury.
I followed you home. I knew he would hit you again. You're coming with me.
And this time, I didn't argue. He lifted me onto his horse, climbed up behind me, and we rode into the night. I didn't look back. By dawn, we arrived at his kingdom. Leif's mother embraced me like a daughter. They bathed me, dressed me in the finest silk, and fed me until I could no longer eat. It was only then that I realized Leif was not just a warrior, he was a prince. You never told me.
My father died in the war. I am to be king, and I want you to be my queen.
Tears spilled down my cheeks, but this time, they weren't from pain. For the first time in my life, I had a choice, and I chose freedom. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment for more inspiring stories and content.